Your user interface can really make or break your app. And if you have screenshots of it on the App Store and it doesn't look good, then your app won't even get downloaded. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the one thing you can do that will make your application look a lot better. Doing this will make your app look more professional and more polished. And doing this is very important. All of the top apps on the App Store are doing this, and if you're not doing this in your app, then your app just won't be up to par and it won't get as many downloads as it could. The one thing you can do to improve your user interface that I alluded to earlier is to start using cards and to stop using text-based buttons. The issue with these buttons are, it is unclear exactly where your radius is for the tap. So if you tap to the right or left of home, it's unclear where exactly that boundary is. If you switch to cards, that solves that issue. This is a very plain two-dimensional way to build an app. And yes, it can get the job done and it can be functional. But if you look at a lot of the new apps that are doing well on the App Store now, then they really use cards. And so that's the change you need to make in your application too. And I'm going to show you a few examples of apps that use cards, and then I'm going to show you how you can implement this in your own application. The Uber Eats app is actually a good example and a good use of cards here. Especially if you look at that left screenshot on the top, you can see that the different icons they have are inside of cards, and you can use that to represent each category. So they have the American section, their grocery section, and everything gets sectioned off and everything gets the appropriate amount of screen space here. And those are sort of the principles that we're going to be targeting when we implement cards in our application. This is a much better implementation of a home screen, and I'm going to show you how you can do this in your own app in Swift and SwiftUI in just a few minutes. But the one thing I want to call out here is that now you see a clearly defined border for each button. So you're no longer guessing where the white space is on your button, you can actually see it. And you know exactly where you can tap on the screen and which button will that activate. And each button is also associated with an icon, which just makes the app more visually appealing. I'm going to show you how you can take this up a notch and make this look even better, but this is a huge improvement over the one we just saw. So let's go dive into the back end of this and look at this code that makes this possible. And then I'll show you one more improvement that we can do later in the video. Now let's talk about what's going on in the code. So we have this card button struct, and inside of that we have sort of these three variables at the top where we define the title, the icon, and the action. The title is the actual text that will be displayed, the icon is the icon displayed in the actual button itself, then the action is just some code that will execute when the button is tapped. And then if you go inside of the view here, we have our button, and then we have these SwiftUI elements inside of our button. So we have an 8 stack which horizontally stacks SwiftUI elements. We have our image which shows our icon, some text which shows our title. We have a spacer, and then we have an image. And then we have some formatting things here, and then we have our background. We make it a rounded rectangle so we don't have those sharp edges, which just makes it look a little more visually appealing. And so we have this struct, this card button struct. And then inside of our actual view that we present to the user, in a VStack in our navigation view, we have these card buttons where we can pass in a title and then the icon, and then that will be displayed to the user. So that's what's going on in our code. Now I'm going to show you something you can do to make this look even better. This is an example of a UI that looks much better. We put everything into a 2x2 grid, and what this does is it just makes the app look more professional and more polished. You could do it where you just have each icon being a separate row, and that looks fine, but I think it really just looks more like those top tier apps if you do something like this in your applications. I won't spend much time talking about the code again because we've already gone through it and not much has changed, but really the two things to call out here. One, we defined this columns variable where we define our 2 columns, and then we have this lazy vertical grid where we can pass in our columns, and that's what gives us our 2x2 structure. The last thing I want to mention here is when I was building my app Ace Case, which helped users land jobs in consulting and financial analytics, I used this grid structure to add cards to my app so I wouldn't be using simple text buttons. And I think the outcome was very good. So that's it for today's video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. Also, if you're interested in consulting or working in finance, make sure you go download Ace Case, where you can take interactive case interviews to prepare for your next case interview. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.